Welcome to the In My Opinion show with Ronald Barrington Robinson and friends, seen on the internet 24 hours a day. I want to introduce our very talented co-host, Miss Jackie Williams.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
And Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ron.
And welcome our millions of viewers worldwide. Let's talk about the census, okay? That's a process of counting the people, in the country. The past few years have been both a time of frustration and one of reflection. Like so many Americans, I'm concerned about the direction of our country. But the answer to this question will define the future of this nation that we love. Who will step up to defend our democracy in this time of maximum danger? In 2011, politicians stood for themselves when they systematically and unfairly put voters into districts based on their political affiliation and race. It was a major blow to the integrity of our elections. 9 years ago, advocates for fairness lacked the infrastructure, organizing power, and funding to serve as a check on power-hungry incumbents. 2021 we must and will be different. The All on the Line movement will stand on the right side of history, and I will be right there with you with the support of our grassroots donors and volunteers. We'll have the resources, people power, and technology we need to prevent the kind of manipulation that has fueled the deep polarization and political obstruction of the past decade. The American people have a right to a government that reflects the best of them. It is up to us to fight that right. So let's get counted, folks. All right. The census covers a lot of grounds. It determines, who your senator is going to be, who your state representatives are going to be. Okay, and money coming to the states, a whole host of things. Henry, what is your thoughts?
Well, I think that is one of the areas where there are no politics involved at all. You count because the feedback is directly to the individual who was counted, because it brings back money into your district that serves your district to carry on the functions that your district needs to satisfy the needs of the people in that district. And I don't see where you can get any kind of political feedback or from that. That's your duty. Your duty is to be counted because you benefit directly from it. And in African American communities, for instance, I'll pick on them for a moment. Those are some of the poorest communities in the United States, and people who pride themselves in not getting counted do a total injustice to the population, and they need to get it right. They need to go out, as you said, and be counted in this next census. It's very important. It's very important not only to the people who live in those communities today, but very important to their children and to their children's children, and to the redistribution of wealth. The census helps us to redistribute wealth to communities, and that's one of the enabling ways that we can all contribute to the redistribution of wealth in our communities.
Well, one thing here recently, President Trump wanted to throw in ethnicity into the mix, okay? But the Supreme Court shut it down, thank goodness, because he wanted to count how many foreigners are in the country, how many illegal people were in the country, etc., etc., etc. But I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm glad that the Supreme Court seen the error of President Trump's ways. Jackie?
Well, let me piggyback on what you were just saying for a second. One of the reasons why he wanted to add that is because they felt as though they wanted to track, because now they're saying that ICE agents are showing up at schools, doctor's appointments, and so when you show communities where they dwell, the ICE agents are going to show up there as well. And the census is not to cause frustration or animosity with anybody. It's just to count people, like you said, based on what we need to service. And the other piece is, Henry, thank you for educating me on some of the things about the census, because a lot of times in our communities, unfortunately, we don't understand all that's involved. And so maybe we need to call to action again. Maybe we need to get out there and put on the neighborhood stores, by filling out the census, this is what you help do. And then show the benefits, because a lot of times people don't understand stuff, and instead of them, making them feel bad about them not understanding, they just don't participate. And so maybe we educate on the community centers, the schools, the churches, why it's important for you to fill out the census, and offer help in that too, because our illiteracy rate is really high. And so sometimes it exposes that when we're having to fill out a lot of paperwork, it makes us uneasy. So instead of dealing with those barriers, we just don't do it.
We need to figure out a way to get us to do our duty, and everybody's job is to help bring wealth into our communities.
Right.
That's what most communities of the world do. They favorably do things that direct more and more wealth into that community. And this is a way for African Americans to really help distribute some of the wealth back in the communities that is currently going to other communities.
Yes, I think that's it in a nutshell. Yes.
So folks, get out and do your due diligence, okay? So that hopefully, especially in the black community, as Mr. Hatter was talking about, things can hopefully can get better. All right. Now, let's talk about Trump's acquittal on both charges: obstruction of Congress and abuse of power. All right. Now, I have a problem with that. A big problem. Okay. Now you've got two houses up there. All right. The Democrats didn't go for it. The Republicans voted, one crossed over to acquit, okay? Now, why is it that these people, what was the second one?
Romney.
Romney was one, and
one from Massachusetts.
But for the acquittal was just one.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
For the acquittal was just one.
Yeah, okay.
Now, what I don't understand, and I need somebody to tell me. Okay, call in 810-250-7365 or somebody here in the round table. Why is it that when people get elected, we'll use Congress, okay? Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, your constituents put you in those positions, all right? So therefore, when you get to Lansing or Washington, okay, you got to go with your party. And I can't believe all of those Republicans believed that he was guilty, that he was innocent. All right. It's the people you better be concerned about back home. All right, because if you have a number of those folks not voting for you, your butt is going to be staying home, wherever you came from, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Now, can somebody tell me just because Trump's the president, oh, well, I got to vote for him, I got to vote for a Republican, or Obama is the president, so and a Democrat, so I got to vote for him. I just don't get it, okay? And especially if the information, the evidence is there, all right, and especially in this situation, all right, it's unbelievable. When how can you have a fair trial if you have no witnesses, all right, that know things about you and are permitted and are told don't testify, okay, even when you get a subpoena, to deny that subpoena. Now I'm hoping when it all comes down, okay, that those ones that defied the subpoenas from the Democrats, I hope they go to jail. Okay? I hope they go to jail. Because if we defied a subpoena that was issued to us, we're going straight to jail. No ands, ifs, buts about it.
Right.
All right? And maybe to prison.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Jackie?
Well, I got a lot of thoughts on that. Well, first, the problem with the whole impeachment trial was that they did not take serious. When I say they, the Republicans did not take seriously what the charge was. The charge was, as our founders, founding fathers, when they did the Constitution, they wanted to make sure that no one in position would abuse their position. And that's where impeachment came from. That was a form of checking that power. And there is two co-equal branches of government. And if you don't allow the check and balances to come, you will get out of pocket. And that's what has happened, is because a lot of times they have enjoyed the tax cuts and being able to get rid of regulations so all of their friends can build in places they should not build and not protect what they should protect. And so it has allowed them to be fat on a hog, as they would call it, where they're getting all these perks. So when you tell me that we want to get rid of somebody that's giving me the perks, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not for doing that, because it's beneficial to me personally. Not my position that I took an oath for, but it benefits me personally. So we're not really interested in finding out facts, because this is a area I don't want to go in. And so that's what I find, is that even though 71% of Americans said that what he did was wrong and he should be punished, they weren't willing to take that step. So what have we created? We've created a monster. As your mom, your grandmother used to say, we have created a monster. Because you did not check that power, now he's out of control, even worse than he was before this happened. So now nobody can check him, because normally with the subpoena, the FBI or they handle that. Not FBI. What is it? Attorney Barr?
Attorney Barr.
They normally handle checking.
Attorney General.
Yeah, Attorney General. They normally handle, like, if there's a defiance of subpoenas and stuff. He is not operating in his right position, so that is not even an option, because the reason why it had to go to the House is because he refused to even bring charges. So things are not working like they should be working. So I'm not surprised that he was easily acquitted, but they might not have paid for, Donald Trump might not have paid for doing what he did at the at the trial, but he will pay in November, because people are very upset about his behavior, the things that he do. He's just like a little kid sitting in a playpen having a tantrum. And and the tantrum is with anybody that don't agree with him. It's just like a grown man that never grew up. Seriously. It's like a grown man that never grew up, and everybody that I'm upset with, I get rid of. Anybody to tell me I can't do what I want to do, I get rid of you. Or I demean anybody that says something that doesn't line up with what I agree with. This guy that testified, that was in the military, what's his name?
Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You walked him out like he was degraded in his office because he did what he was supposed to do.
And his brother too.
And his brother had nothing to do with it. So it's just like anybody that is anywhere connected to something that he doesn't agree with, he get rid of everybody. We have a lot of healing to do. America, we are looked down across the world and they're laughing at us. They make babies of him because he acts like a baby. That alone should make us have a check and balance. We used to be the one that everybody looked to for strength, for dignity and all that stuff. We have lost that. Our moral compass is bankrupt. This is horrible behavior. Our kids are watching it. And do you not know that there's groups of kids in school that are getting put out of school because they're in school saying the same stuff that Trump says in school? And they're using this, and the president said it. Isn't that horrible? He holds the highest office in the United States, and he should act like it. Just because we're big enough to do it, your mama used to tell you, doesn't mean you need to do it. Just because you're big enough to do it. So it has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans. It has to do with right and wrong. Period.
And integrity.
Yeah, period. We have to move the moral compass and go back to what we were founded on. And we are not doing that right now.
I can tell when you're mad because your speech, there was a breakdown in sequence there when you don't keep case number and gender. And I don't usually find you in that situation. But my take on that is it's the process that decides, that validates whatever comes out of Washington. If the process favors the retention of the president, then all of the other arguments become just a footnote a generation from now, and will amount to naught. The danger of what you're talking about when a president gets too maybe aggressive, you can never know the consequences of all the actions that are occurring throughout this process. And some of them, since you can't be able to predict them or place them, it follows the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So you can never tell what's going to happen next. So I think that as we move down the road, when the president has power and authority over the organs of government, as you have explained, that vacillates once in a while. It happened in the time of President Roosevelt, because he had awesome power. He had asked the Supreme Court to allow him to add numbers to the Supreme Court because Congress would not generate the legislation to do that. And so what he did is he threatened them with a lawsuit, and he was able to accomplish something under the New Deal. All of it's not coming back to me exactly right, but to accomplish something for the New Deal that was successful. But he threatened Congress, and that was when the president was a powerful entity, and then it swung to where Congress had that authority. The Supreme Court has never been dominant in any of these three organs of government, but they appear dominant when they can make rulings that check the president or Congress, and that's how it should be. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you see now is a strong president that will vacillate, that will swing back. The pendulum swings back and forth throughout the history. I think we had that at the time of Jackson as well. Jackson said he was, the Supreme Court had made a decision and they didn't like the decision that Jackson didn't like the decision that the Supreme Court made. He says, well, okay, the Supreme Court has made its decision. Now let us see whether they can enforce it. Now remember who enforces the law. The power is the president. He says, well, let's see if they can enforce it. And the Supreme Court backed off. So we've had lots of times that we've had these vacillations, and we are able to survive them all. We've been a nation of 238 years. We've done this back and forth. And there are other issues that threaten our stability. Nothing as profound as a paradigm shift. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope that pendulum swings back real soon. Okay. Changing gears here from with a little time we got left. This is a question. Why should blacks and other minorities stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? You ready?
Well,
it's not in the Constitution, all right? It's a socialist minister that wrote that, okay, in the late 1800s, 1892. Okay, I fail to remember his name. You probably got it already. Oh, yes. Okay. But so
I remember, but I don't remember his name. But every opportunity I get, I would salute the flag.
It doesn't have nothing to do. I mean, what I'm saying is,
why
should we?
Because it's in me to do that.
Well, that's because we have been taught to do that.
I give loyalty to my country.
That's got nothing to do. That's got nothing to do with the loyalty or anything like this here.
Well,
you get a Baptist preacher, all right, and for you folks out there, check out the history of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Francis Bellamy,
okay,
1855 to 1931.
All right.
He wrote the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Pledge of Allegiance, and what they've taught us in school is not everything, because this man, this Francis Bellamy, was a racist. All right, he was a racist socialist minister. All right, look it up for yourself. And the reason we do it, because I have done it myself at school, because that's where you learn, either church or, I mean, not at church, but at school. And it's just been that way. Because people are too lazy to look this stuff up for themselves. They just go along.
Let me just say before, while he wrote it, One Nation Under God was not even included. They added that later.
Yeah,
but also, I want to go back to the not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I was watching a show the other day, well, it's been a little while ago, and what they mentioned was that they don't talk about this very often, but there was a baseball players that would take the knee. So this is nothing new. They would take the knee years ago when they first started having blacks on the baseball team, because other teams would not play against them and they would have to forfeit their games. And so they would take a knee to show that they were not happy about what was going on. So taking a knee was always a way of showing that you are not happy with something going on. It has nothing to do with your commitment to the United States or anything like that. It was a chance for you to show that you were unhappy with some actions. So that happened all the way back early years of baseball.
But when I see people who do give reverence to the flag, because the flag is a symbol that unites us all, or supposed to. Yeah. That's a good feeling for me, because I'm in a environment where I am accepted, and I must be accepted before I'll give loyalty to it. Stop and think about it. And the little stuff that people do that don't like me because of my race, that's their problem, not mine. Why should I do something to break the continuity of trust and feeling having a presence among men or women or among Americans, because I don't believe that I should be committed to do a pledge.
And why be committed to why committed to a rag? Be committed to a rag
Well,
that's blowing in the wind.
it's it's symbolic. It's a
what's her name? Betsy Ross. She's the one made it.
Yeah.
All right.
It's symbolic. It's a symbol. It's a metaphor.
Well,
So metaphors are the things that make us sense and feel association with something.
but if it's not in the Constitution,
It doesn't.
why
have
do
to
you
be
have
in
to
the
respect it?
Or,
Okay, that's my question. If it's not in the
no,
Constitution,
it's not in the Constitution.
why should you have to respect?
but it's in the hearts of people.
The Pledge of Allegiance is not in the Constitution.
But don't you think that we ought
Okay.
to have a pledge?
It's a
with
symbol.
us?
It could be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Satanism out here.
Okay.
All right, a symbol like gold, they say, and that cross that people wear all the time. Okay, it's a symbol.
But see, I grew up with that.
Me too.
My
I did
parents
too.
grew up.
I'm just
My parents were-
asking a question.
My parents were people who were born in this country,
Mhm.
and they had no objection to it, and they had been through slavery. Remember?
Because
But-
they probably didn't know, just like my parents didn't know.
But I know
Okay.
now, and I haven't changed because it's
Because it's instilled in you.
yeah. Well, it's a value system to me now, and once something becomes a value, it's immovable. It's immutable.
Until we learn to do better.
Yeah.
Because I learned from them taking a knee that the reason why they took the knee is because they wanted to show that they were protesting. It was
Yeah.
a sign of protest. And the other thing that they said was very significant, they said the flag did not cover them. See, it said one nation under God. And they were saying that what was happening to us, blacks, being stopped by the police and harassed, did not cover us. So they were saying the flag did not cover those things that were going on, because they were making it seem like we're all going through the same thing. And they were saying that no, we're not going through the same thing, because the flag isn't covering us, because we're not getting justice because the way that we're being
And they're
treated.
paying you millions of dollars a year to go out there and hit a baseball.
That has nothing to do with being.
But
They're
that's
speaking
part
on
of it.
behalf of the voices that are not on the football field and
Yeah.
not on the baseball.
No, let me
court.
see.
I mean, what is it?
If I could go back and just
The mouth.
borrow from Lincoln for a minute.
Borrow it.
And Lincoln said, well, we can't have two nations on this land. We cannot have a slave state and a free state. We got to get rid of slavery, okay? He says we got to become one. A man who had the vision and the confidence
Right.
and moved in the right direction to be who we are today. Otherwise, we would be something else, and the fate of the black man would have never been known.
Only thing about Lincoln and that lie that he told, all right, about abolishing slavery, okay, it's because and setting the slaves free in the slave states, because there was too much money. Okay, the slave states was making too much money. All right.
Well, they had to pay taxes on the money.
So
if they made money,
that's the real deal.
if they made money, that's what
It
the
wasn't
United
about-
States wanted them to do.
It wasn't
in
about
commerce.
Lincoln in his heart. He freed the slaves. All right.
I
But
don't-
anyway,
Well, guys, I don't know about
It's,
the man. I didn't know him, but I loved what he did. I
Well,
loved the
You were
actions
there?
in it.
You were there?
But I loved what he did because I benefited from it all down through the years, up to my parents and the slaves. I benefited, and I'm standing here on the IOMO show, voicing my opinion.
with
Otherwise, with that, I would never have.
with that, we got to bring the In My Opinion show to a close. We will revisit this topic at a later date. This is Ronald Barrington Robinson and friends saying, until next time, stay focused.